The light of smiles. I will light the match of smiles. My gloom veil will disappear. I shall behold my soul in the light of my smiles, hidden behind the accumulated darkness of ages. When I find myself, I shall race through all hearts with the torch of my soul smiles. My heart will smile first, then my eyes and my face. Every body part will shine in the light of smiles. I will run amid the thickets of melancholy hearts and make a bonfire of all sorrows. I am the irresistible fire of smiles. I will fan myself with the breeze of God joy and blaze my way through the darkness of all minds. My smiles will convey his smiles, and whoever meets me will catch a whiff of my divine joy. I will carry fragrant, purifying torches of smiles for all hearts.
So I'm going to read something that's from our vision statement, just a little excerpt for fun, just to sort of check that box. And goes like this. Visualize a campus for the School of Life, an intentional community where everyone is honored as a student as well as a teacher. The ideals of compassion, service, humility, and divine friendship imbue every aspect of living. Life is celebrated as an opportunity for continuous physical, mental, and spiritual development. Daily activities are filled with cooperation and creativity and include meditation, service projects, art, music, science, business, and spiritual pursuits. The gifts and talents of all, from the very young to the elderly, are nurtured, appreciated, and harnessed for the overall good of the community. Birth, adolescence, marriage, death, all rites of passage are celebrated in the context of a present, caring community. This is the property. And this would be looking south, I do believe. And if you look at the clear open field, there's sort of a little row of trees on the, oh yeah, thank you. Well, that row of trees to the left of that is Happy Heart Farm. And yeah, and that's Dennis and Bailey's house. Why don't you point to their house down there? Further down, or up, I should say, in the picture. Up, right in there, I believe, that's correct, is Dennis and Bailey's house. And this is Happy Heart Farm, from there all the way towards us to that row of trees along the street at the bottom left. Yeah, exactly. And then these other two parcels, that is about 8.2 acres. And then these other two parcels, that one and the one to the right of it. Go to the right, Nina. Go right. There you go. That one, total about 10 more acres. And then there's one more parcel not showing, which is towards us and out of the picture. And then just a quick note on the right-hand side, if you go all the way to the right, you see that little pond right there? That's a retention pond. And our property will have not a retention pond, but a detention pond. Slight difference in how they function as a flood control device. All right, why don't we show the other one real quick, and then we better launch. Okay, now we're looking due west. So we are looking up into the mountains there. The property's at, I think, about 5,000 feet or more. And that reservoir, Dennis and Bailey, if you could unmute for a moment and tell us what we're looking at there in that mountain. Can you guys do that?
Down towards ours. So looking west, and these are the foothills
that are the hills furthest west there.
That's
And
Claymore Lake.
There's a little lake, but near
Right
that
over this
area,
ridge
right over that ridge, Dennis
Is
is pointing.
Horsetooth Reservoir, which is 11 and a half miles of man-made reservoirs that holds a lot of the water that irrigates to the east.
And our farm, it alternates between the nearby river, Poudre River, and then this reservoir.
So
Right.
thank you.
Very cool. Thank you. All right. So you get a little feel for the property. If we don't have one right now that would be looking east, but we'd be looking into the city of Fort Collins, which is not far away. Downtown is not very far either. So you're kind of nestled in there, right in the foothills. It's just a beautiful, beautiful spot. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us again here today. And today we are going to tackle finances, and we're going to stick with the broad brushstrokes to really try to understand it from a large perspective of the scale of the project and what it is we're talking about and how it's going to work. And there'll be a lot more detail to come. And those of you who have interest and want to get right down into the details, we're prepared to do that as well, and individually if that's most comfortable. What we'll probably do is have another meeting of potential investors and bring the lawyer and really get down into the nitty gritty, because it's a very, as we all know, important, essential part of the success of this project is to get the finances in order and make them clear for everybody. So there's a very, knowledgeable understanding about moving forward. So to start with the big picture, we have 19 acres that we are in escrow on, essentially. And basically, in terms of real estate, it is a great location. It is not only does it have the really good zoning, which fits our vision to a T, but it's situated in a very sort of up and coming town. Well, I think Fort Collins has been a boom town for the last 20 years, as far as I can tell, but it's just in a nice location in terms of an hour from Denver. Colorado is a very prosperous and growing place. In 2008, when all other real estate crashed, for example, I'm told that Fort Collins just flatlined for a while and then kind of went back to business as normal. So it's a fairly good bet on that level, but it is 19 acres and the great zoning, and the package includes water for farming, which is key to our vision. And in very broad numbers, this is rough, but it'll give you at least the idea of the scale we're talking about. It's about $3 million in land costs, about the same amount or a little more in infrastructure and planning costs, and ending up with a value of somewhere between 7.5 and 8.5 million. So basically the way the development plan works is you have raw land. You've got to go and do all this planning, which takes us about 12 months. And we're well into it now. So actually we could finish in 10 from now. But, being, conservative would probably be another year of planning. And at that point, you go to the city and the city tells you, and of course, this is all a cooperative venture with the city. They have, Fort Collins has a very, very high standard of what they want to see in development. It's actually part of why we're there, because of that standard. They actually value a lot of the things we value. In fact, I think I said at one of the recent meetings, our engineer told us that when they find out what we're trying to do there, they'll give us a standing ovation. So we'll see if that really remains to be true. Bureaucracy can be difficult. But nevertheless, the resonance with the core values is there, and so that's a very positive thing in terms of the overall outlook. So you spend this 12 months of spending money, not only on the land, but on engineers and architects and a lot of what they call soft costs, which is to queue up the design and make it, design the community you want to live in. And then in this partnership with the larger community, in theory, in 12 months, they say, okay, you're tentatively approved. And the reason it's tentative is because they are going to now require you to implement all the things that you have planned in terms of the infrastructure. So roads, sewer, water, all those things that have been agreed upon have to now be installed before you actually get final approval. So now that's another 12 to 18 months of actually putting in all those things, putting all the pipes in the ground, the power, the roads, et cetera. And at the end of that, you get final inspection and final approval. At that point, you have, in our case, somewhere 100 plus units and some number of single family lots that you can then sell. And so that's basically how development works for the uninitiated, if you've ever wondered. Now typically a developer will do this, and in this case, our community is acting as the developer, and it just makes a whole lot of sense to have us design the kind of community we want to live in, rather than have someone else design it, and just for profit motive, basically, which is fine. They're providing a needed service, but there's so much potential for us to end up with a product that we really want by doing it this way. So in a nutshell, that's how it works. Now, some of you know, because you were contributors, and other of you may have heard or may have not, but about 6 years ago, Polestar refinanced its property in Hawaii. And we used what's called a crowdfunding model, and you've probably heard of that word before. But basically, you round up all your friends and your families and your aunts and uncles and anybody who believes in your vision, and they all contribute and invest in some way to the fulfillment of that vision. So in our case, we raised about $700,000 with donations from anywhere from $5,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And by pooling all those resources, it put us in a position to refinance our property. And it was just very effective. And so we're doing a similar thing for this project. Same kind of approach. I should mention that right now, a lot of this can be done through bank financing, and bank money is cheap right now. So we need a certain amount of equity in the project, but there's sort of standard bank products that finance this type of process, and
Michael,
we're in
can I interrupt?
Several. Okay, go ahead.
They weren't donations, they were investments.
Thank you. I guess
Okay.
I didn't make that. I might have said contributions. Okay, and in that case, thank you, Ann. And it was, in that case, it was all relatively low interest loans. So people were at least getting a return on their money. They were protecting their capital. They weren't donating. They were getting a modest return, but a fair enough return that made them want to support this vision. So that's exactly the kind of thing we're looking for in this project as well. And like I said, we only need about 35% equity in the project in order to get bank financing. Now, if we had a real groundswell of interest and somebody who just made gazillions on Bitcoin or something and wanted to invest in Polestar, we could actually do it without the banks, which would be in some ways desirable because it'd be less of a headache. But suffice it to say, there's a fairly straightforward path ahead of us of raising about 35% of the equity needed, and then getting what they call an A&D loan, in bank parlance, an acquisition and development loan that brings you to the fulfillment of the infrastructure. So now there's a lot more to this, and it has to do with the vehicle and the entities that hold the money. And without going into too much detail, I'll just touch briefly on it. As I think you're all aware, the point of this development exercise is to endow and empower the nonprofit to fulfill its mission in a community setting. So basically, no one will profit from this undertaking. We hope that many will benefit, and believe that many will. But there will be no profit going to any individual on this undertaking. So, and surprisingly, that's kind of tricky, actually. And the reason it's a little bit tricky is because you can't own stock in a nonprofit, but if you own stock in a regular corporation, you have a right to its profits. So we have learned, and some of you I'm sure are familiar with it, but I was not until fairly recently, of an entity called a B corporation, or they call it a B Corp. And a B Corp is basically, it's understood that the B Corp has a public good it's trying to do as part of its mission. And so it's understood that all the profits are not necessarily owed to the investors. And you basically go into a B Corp, you can own stock in it. So actually that's a great thing, because the people who want to invest will own stock in the company that owns the project. And so, and there's a level of safety in that. But what the B Corp allows you to do is give those investors an agreed upon return on their investment, and then keep the rest for the nonprofit and the public benefit, is basically the idea. So I hope that's fairly clear. I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on that, but that is the basic idea with a B Corp. And we're still in the middle of, there's so many functions to a community, and how they are all held and in which entities is a much deeper topic, and it's still all in process. I don't even have a specific proposal yet. We have some good ideas of where it's headed, but that is all still in process. So basically, we are going to have, actually we incorporated a nonprofit already, I mean a LLC already for this function, and we are going to change it now to a B Corp, which we're told is no big deal. That B Corp will hold title to the property and offer that measure of protection to the investors, that they own stock in the company that owns the property. So now once we get down the road, and you actually have lots for sale and you have building products for sale, the whole thing shifts, because one, the equity goes way up. So all of a sudden you've got a project that's worth a whole lot more money. And so basically your protection, you have this sort of short period of time when you're kind of holding your breath to get through all the entitlements and to get the approval from the city. And then once you have that approval, you actually, and put in the infrastructure, you actually have lots for sale. You can borrow against them. They're worth, they're a financial asset. So the B Corp is the entity that functions in sort of that in-between time while you're doing all the planning and all the infrastructure installation. Now there's another level of protection that investors will have in this project. And that is the fact that by the wonders of lava insurance, which thankfully we had here at Polestar, we were able to pay off all our debts here. And these are all the people who put in their crowdfunding contributions. And And Polestar ended up with a not insignificant chunk of change to put into the project. And so that's another level of protection that investors will have. The nonprofit will have about $1 million of skin in the game. So it will make it, and believe me, the nonprofit will be last in line if anything should happen. The goal would be to get everybody, their money, and it's another level of protection for people's investments. And then the final level is one thing we've done just interminably, because we all kind of are karma yogis here, is we put our sweat equity into the project, and we see that continuing. Most of you know, and some of you may not, that I, myself, and Anne, and many of our dear friends and family are lifelong builders. So building is kind of what we do. It's what we have done for a living. So all along the way, we will be putting our own sweat equity into the project, which is just another asset to the overall sort of viability of the project. So it's a fair bit of information for some of you. It's all very standard stuff, I'm sure, but just to pause for a moment and see if there's any of you who might have questions so far or comments so far before we sort of go on.
I just had a quick, could you clarify again on the purpose of the B Corp and how that acted as kind of an interim solution before a particular phase?
You bet. The problem is, actually the core problem is that the bank wants to see about 30% equity on their loan. They want you to have about 30% of the value of the project in the game, skin in the game. And if you do that all through loans, which I think we could do, if you raise that money through loans, they don't like what they call debt financed equity. So basically you need a method of investment where they aren't loans, they are actual stock and ownership. And thus the bank can count them as equity. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Baba.
You bet. Anyone else? Okay. Let me look at my notes real quick, see if I forgot anything. Okay, so for those of you who are really interested in investing, we really need your help. There's no question about it. And so I am available by phone. We're happy to talk to you individually. We will have another meeting in another week or so. We'll have a lot more information and start to get some of the documentation ready. But this is giving you sort of the broad brushstrokes of how it's going to work. And you could start to get a feel for if it would work for you to invest. One important thing I forgot. I knew I was forgetting something. Kind of the idea of both the loans, because we can still accept loans, and loans might be better for some people. We will still accept loans to the nonprofit as we have in the past, or as I said, stock in this B Corp as an investment with a pre-agreed upon rate of return. It would really function a whole lot like a loan. But the important thing to remember is that this is going to be the cue for acquiring the lots and the homes. In other words, those of you who really want a lot, and I've heard a lot of people say that, save me a lot, I'll take a lot, and I really want to say that, that those people who invest will be in that place of getting first shot at what's available for lots or condos or townhouses. We got everything's on the map right now. And next week we're going to go through, and I'm going to bring the designers. Thankfully, I won't have to do all the talking, and we'll get there. We'll have some plans to share, and you'll get to see more specifically what we're shooting at. And it's a very, very exciting design, actually. And I think you won't want to miss next week. And we have really good people working on this as well. So, but anyway, the part of the motivation for investing in or lending would be that you would be interested in investing in a lot, owning a lot, having a house built, being a part of the community. Otherwise, we have always had people who simply supported Polestar's vision and don't plan on living there, but love the work that we do with community building, with youth, with spirituality, all the various things we do. So that is also, of course, very much needed and appreciated. So yeah, we don't really know how that's going to work. Like, will there be a lottery, where you get your name in a hat and you get to pull out a ticket and then you get to pick your first lot. We'll see how that all unfolds. And in that context, I wanted to say that we're seeing a lot of opportunities in this development for basically smaller co-housing cooperative ventures on separate lots. So in other words, you might have a group of your friends who would say, oh, let's build a row of townhouses together. And you could take a lot and put a fourplex up or even a sixplex. And so there's this opportunity to sort of have your more micro community, also your direct neighbors, as part of your intention. And we've dreamed of even having, people from different groups, people from different spiritual groups either. We have a lot of connections in the Buddhist community and also the Sikh community. And, Yogananda had this ideal of the church of all religions. Well, maybe this will be the community of all religions. We'll see. But the idea is that if you have an extended family or a group of people who would like to go in, we could accommodate that. We could explore that with you. So there's just so many amazing possibilities here. So that's probably enough on that topic for now. But like I said, lots more details to come. If you want to talk about it, if you're serious about contributing, investing, lending, please don't be afraid to call me, and we can give you a lot more information. So the next thing I wanted to talk about briefly, and then I'll be done and we'll move on into smaller groups, but is the economic opportunity there. And this is just really kind of astounding for me, what a great opportunity it is, because the location being what it is, I mean, I've lived in rural community all my life. And so you're always up against the fact that you're remote, and economics is difficult as a result. You either sort of build everything that was in the city out where you are, or you commute to the city to participate in its economy is kind of how it breaks down. Well, with such a great location, there's all kinds of things that are potentially viable that would otherwise not be. We've already talked about a school, which is part of our vision, and elder housing. Those are both economic opportunities as well. We learned just last week that, and I'm sure Dennis and Bailey know this, but I don't know why it just struck me as amazing and wonderful, is the fact that our someone waiting in the waiting room. I'll grab them real quick. Our zoning, which basically allows for anything you can think of, short of industrial, applications, allows for farmers markets. So that's kind of what you guys did for years, really. But I never sort of connected those dots of what a wonderful weekly event that could be in our community, in a way to share our community and share our food and share our spirit and our music and all those things. And there again, it's another economic opportunity. Somebody could do a bakery or a coffee shop or live work kind of arrangements where you're living above your lawyer office or your architect office or your massage thing or whatever, all those things, childcare, All these things are permitted uses in this mixed zone. And it just makes for a very dynamic one. It keeps us all walking because we don't have to get in our car all the time to do these things. But it also just makes for a dynamic community where all these different creative things can be happening. So really, the sky's the limit there. The opportunity for cottage industries and all kinds, that could be connected to the farmers market, all kinds of different things. There's just an immense amount of potential there. For us builders, we got quite a bit of building to do for quite a while. So there's that too, in terms of construction is typically a big employer and economic engine for communities. So a lot of good potential there. So any thoughts or questions or comments about any of this so far? All right. Oh, Susan, go ahead.
Do you have an idea of what the lot size that you're talking about would be?
Some of them, yes. Right now, we've got larger lots and smaller lots. And the larger ones are about 6,000 square feet, 5,000 to 6,000 square feet, and the smaller, a little bit smaller than that. And because we have this mixed use zoning, and because also we have the reality of putting acreage aside for farming and the requirement of putting acreage aside for our detention pond, which is a flood control reality. In a sense, we have way more lots that could be built there that will get built. And because of that, it's such an age-old pattern in my experience as a builder of people have a single family dwelling and they're always putting in the second unit, either with or without the city's approval, because who doesn't want an apartment over their garage for their son or for visitors or for Airbnb or for whatever, so it's just a classic thing. Well, because we have these units, we can just put 2 units on a lot that size, and people would gain the asset of being able to do a legal second unit in some way, or 3 or even 4, depending on the lot size. So anyway, and there's a lot of of course, the new urbanists, if you know their sort of planning shtick, are all over this stuff, and they have some really brilliant ideas and floor plans and ways to use the land and how to keep gardens integrated into it all. There's a lot of really exciting designs out there. So we're all sort of reveling in a lot of the work that's been done for this type of urban living, and so yeah, that answers your long answer to a short question, but anyone else?
I have a question, Michael.
Sure.
Let's say someone has a fee simple interest in some of the property, and then they want to leave or they pass away. How will you be able to ensure that the successor interest is in harmony with the aims and ideals of the community?
Well, it's a really good question. And the first thing we'd like to do is to give the community a right of refusal in that process. And so that would help somewhat. I think it's also a little bit the fact that there wouldn't be a reason really. I think there'll be a premium, quite honestly, for those who value what we value to live in this development. And it really wouldn't be worth it if it didn't resonate on some level with you. And so you brought up a good question. I don't have a perfect answer for it, but part of the answer is this is an intentional neighborhood, and it's not a commune for sure. It's a different type of intentional community, but by design, it's a little more arm's length on that level. And we hope And it's really been our experience to date that the magnetism of what we do will carry the day more than the spirit of what we are doing will carry the energy more than trying to make it so we can have a real fine filter on who can get in and who can't. And yeah, I don't have a perfect answer for that, but that's probably as much as I got. Does that help? Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
I have a question, Michael. So I understand this maybe we'll talk about it next week, but is the building a temple one of the main projects as well
Yes.
as all these individual homes and communities?
Yes.
Where does that fit in there? Yeah.
Oh, yes. And next week you'll see the designs we have. And, basically we got this. Yeah, I mean, we're real excited now about the designs that are coming out because we have some very compact, high density housing on what's basically the village green. And you're basically in a walkable area with the dining hall, the temple, the community center, and even the elder housing with no cars between you and any of those functions. So you have this huge pedestrian area where life can happen, just be really protected, safe, private, et cetera. And so there's we're real excited about the designs, and I'll share more about that next week. And but yes, Temple is at the top of our list. Very, very possibly, I'll make a slight digression quickly. One of the ways some communities have organized themselves is by buying an apartment complex and creating what's known as a tenants in common agreement. So it's an interesting legal approach that makes the property one unit, but all the expenses, more or less, taxes, et cetera, pass through to the individual owners. So it's about as close as you can get to owning your actual unit without actually owning it. And there's tax advantages to it and various other advantages. But one of the advantages is that you basically could build these apartments with a group of people intentionally, maybe include a couple extra ones for rentals, and then you could basically pick your neighbors. And that would have its own agreements in terms of its internal structure of Gary's question. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Gary, because I thought of one more thing. Oh yeah, the HOA agreements are another level of governance and filter really for who would be involved. And we haven't begun to write those. I think those will be written. We'll start with some boilerplate kind of stuff, but I think that is really going to be dependent on the group and everyone's input. But you could certainly put some language in there and some requirements that would function as somewhat of a filter. And so just to mention that level, I forgot. All right, who else?
I have a question if you can hear me.
I can. Hi, Hunter.
Hi. How does the bank allow you the building process? Is it something where other builders will come in to put bids in, or do you have control over who is actually building it? That type of thing. I presume you do, but banks is not the easiest thing in the world.
No, it's a very good question. And one I did not know much about myself, even though I've been a builder all my life until we got into the thick of this. And, it's kind of a little bit of a bugger for us builders because, there's up to 100 or more units to build. And, but we cannot service that need very readily among, maybe the half a dozen builders that'll be among us. And so basically what most developers do is they bring in a national builder and they partner with them, and those builders will, they have standard products that they market with the lots, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And basically it's a national outfit and has the ability to do volume, like a custom home builder like myself and a lot of my friends would not. We really don't want to do that, and we're going to try to avoid doing that. And so we're looking at talking to local builders. We're looking at you know, increasing our own capacity for building by some of you may know that modular building gains a bigger market share every single year, and it's amazing what they're doing now. They build them just like we build them, only better, honestly, because it's not raining when they're building them. You know, it's like the controlled environment. So anyway, we're looking at modular applications that would increase our capacity. For all the reasons you can imagine, we would like to do this among our own family and friends to the extent that we can. And it remains to be seen what that is. So that's a conversation that's in motion right now. But the banks, basically what the banks do is they just carry it. As long as they've got the paper on the lot, they just carry it. And when you sell one, they get a chunk back. And so you're basically paying them the interest. So of course it's in your interest to, you know, sell the lots as quick as you can because you are carrying them. And to that extent, you know, if everybody who was interested got in and had the wherewithal to get in and buy a couple extra lots, you know, that would actually be great. You know, we could spread that around a little bit. And but we'll have to see how it all plays out. It's still some unknowns there. We are in conversations with other builders for this very possibility, though.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. All right. I'm going to say, oh, Vina, go ahead.
Hi, Michael. There was a question. Is there an order of what will get built first in terms of the housing?
Okay. Thanks for asking that, because that tied into Teresa's question too. I meant to answer. What we're imagining now is we want to get all the functions there as soon as possible. So very probably we're going to build one of the multi-units, like maybe an 8-plex, say, and get a bunch of us who want to get going there. Maybe leave one of the units empty and use it for our common, you know, dining and meditation room, you know. So basically that would give all the functions in place, and then, you know, building our temple and our dining hall that will come, but we'll have a way to have and fulfill all the various functions that we need in the short term. So in the first buildings, we expect to build housing, but to use some of that housing for these other things. So.
There's one thing that you missed in when you were talking about apartments. And I think judging from what happened in my little group, it would behoove you to talk a little bit about what your plans are when you go there this summer and taking over a complex where a lot of people could join.
Yeah. Thank you, Bernadette.
You're welcome.
There's Therese. Hello, Therese. Ho, ho.
Sorry. There's about 9 of us who are moving there this summer. And we have various schemes of how we're going to do this. One of which is to find a recently built apartment complex that's got a lot of vacancy and all move into it. We're also looking at various other housing options. Actually, some of you Fort Collins residents, we hope are keeping your ear to the ground for housing there. And actually, we want to meet with all you guys sometime soon too. So yeah, we are going to be a couple years at this, And we definitely need to be able to be functioning as a community early on, starting with, kirtans and meditations and work parties on the land and all the stuff, so we expect to begin that in earnest this summer. And
when you coming, Michael? This is
what's
Kelly.
that?
When you coming to Colorado? What part of
We
summer?
are coming in probably July is the most likely time. Yeah. And yeah, good to see you, Kelly.
Yeah, likewise. We're going to be in that area. Not sure we'll be there in July, but we'll be there in June. Maybe
Okay,
July.
well, we could be there that early. It remains to be seen. But yeah,
Well,
we should
visit with
definitely
you on the
connect.
project. I'm very interested.
Oh, glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Michael,
ahead.
this is Maitri. I just want you to know that the date for the Maha Kirtan is July 9th. So you better be there then. That's in Fort Collins. Susan is
all right.
gathering the energy for it. So you better get your plane tickets for that.
All right, I'll be there. No, that's probably good timing. And I should also mention that it's kind of funny because we have this annual family camp out, which has been one of the great Polestar events. We've done it for like 30 straight years or something. And we still call it a camp out, even though we're basically going to a resort. It's still family camp out. But that's in late September or third weekend in September or something. So watch for that too. If you want to come visit and make that part of your visit is going to the camp out, quote unquote, you'd be welcome to join us. But
Do you want to say where it is?
well, yeah, it's in the Rocky Mountains, the gateway to the Rockies of Estes National Park, I think it's called. And it's at a YMCA there that has just a great facility. I think the normal rooms are 2 queens. Is it with a shared bath? I can't remember. But anyway, we'll get you more information. It has been one of the great events over the years where we just basically go to a beautiful spot. We did it at Lake Tahoe for many years. We've done it at the beach here in Hawaii for many years now too. It's just one of our most memorable celebrations. So put that on your calendar too. And also July 9th. I'll definitely get that one down there.
I'm going to just play a song by Swami Kriyananda that we always close our programs here at Ananda Dallas with, and it just seems like an anthem song for communities and for what we're all about. So I'm going to play Lord Most High, make me a channel for thy peace. Lord Most High, our Heavenly Father, all our lives we dedicate to Thee. All our pleasures, all our joys and woes, all our pleasures, all our melody. Make us each a channel